It's one thing to be super powered in a game, it's another thing to become untouchable. Invincibility is almost always the biggest reward a game gives its players, but it's not something to give out lightly. A lot of games only work because of the give and take between risk and reward. Invincibility removes that risk, and if you're not careful, that can remove a lot of the fun along with it. Let's figure out how to make invincibility fun on a very special, very powerful 100th episode of Design Doc. Feel invincible inside steel armor and blast through the front lines in today's sponsor, War Thunder. War Thunder is a free-to-play, large-scale multiplayer action game with ground, air, and naval combat, available for PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Mac. Over 2,500 tanks, helicopters, planes, and ships of 10 major nations are ready for you to command. Everything from the biplanes of the 1920s to the main battle tanks of today. The vehicles have sophisticated damage modeling. You can disable engines, wreck the crew, all kinds of stuff has been modeled to make a more realistic fight. I'm a fan of arcade jet fighting, and this game scratches that itch no problem. They've got modes running the gamut from an arcade mode, to realistic, to simulator mode for maximum accuracy. Check out their new Alpha Strike update, and the new map North Holland, built for intense tank and aviation battles. The update adds new Hungarian planes, other new equipment, and includes a big improvement in visual effects. Over 70 million players have tried it. The game has some gigantic PvP fights ready for you to jump in at any time. Download War Thunder for free. We've got a link in the pinned comment and the video description. Sign up with our link and get a massive bonus pack. Rentals for the P-40E1 aircraft and M4 tank for a week, and free unique skins. The exclusive Eagle of Valor decorator, 100,000 silver lions, 3 premium vehicles for free, a week of premium account, and more. It's available for all new players and those who haven't played War Thunder for over 6 months. Hurry though, the American Vehicle bonus season will end soon, so get in there and keep fighting the good fight. Thanks, War Thunder. Every video game is a house of cards, built with game mechanics. They're oddly shaped. Some don't fit together, but others fit nicely. Mechanics support and build off of each other, and if you can get the balance just right, you can reach amazing heights. But that doesn't make the building stable. Remember Game Genie codes from way back when? They worked by overwriting pieces of the game's instructions to do all kinds of crazy effects. What you could get a Game Genie to do could be completely different game to game, but one of the most popular types of codes you'd read about is the Invincibility code. It would take whatever part of the game was responsible for losing your hearts or hit points, and just made it not do that anymore. Just like that, you were invincible. In some ways. Invincibility codes could be a fun way to screw around in a game you knew by heart, but there were drawbacks. Turning on an invincibility code made it pretty likely that the game design didn't work quite right anymore. If the game was built on risk, threats, combat, and skillfully maneuvering around enemies, those mechanics almost always need you to be able to lose to be fun. Without the risk, there's no tension, and quickly it starts to feel like you're just roaming around the landscape. If you're going to let a player be invincible, you have to design around it. So if you're trying to add invincibility into a game on purpose, what can you aim for? What does a player being invincible actually help you do as a game designer? There are a number of cases where invincibility is used to provide something specific, or to create a distinct feeling in a player. Becoming invincible is a power fantasy. It just is. It's part of the deal. And as one, it can work as part of a grand set piece meant to be a moment of triumph. It can turn a sequence into a victory lap. Metroid Dread's ending section is a straightforward example of this. After enduring a very tough 3-phase boss, Samus is given the super-powered Metroid suit, and gears up to fight the true final Oh. Nope. Samus one-shots it with a big hyper beam. You know what? That's just fine. Samus has never felt more overpowered than this, and you follow it up with the series' traditional final escape sequence. You get to zip around with your super suit. Nothing can touch you, outside of the time limit. Your health is unlimited, and all obstacles and enemies get obliterated with that hyper beam. If this was any longer than 5 minutes, it might get boring pretty fast, but as a one-shot escape sequence to celebrate your win, it's fantastic. Invincibility can also be a great tool for accessibility, in the right situation. The standard set of difficulty options can be augmented with a mode where you just can't be defeated. For games where the draw is the story, an optional invincible setting lets people who just don't want to deal with your mechanics anymore still get more fun out of your game. For games that appeal to a younger or a family co-op audience, your players who maybe don't have the skills yet for your full experience can still have a good time. You can leave in some marker that signifies that the game is being played on an easier mode if that's important to note, but including an invincibility option can let as many people as possible play the game in the way they want to or are capable of playing it. Invincibility can make it easier to play a game, but it doesn't always have to be a free pass. Moments of invincibility can be the key turning points in games whose gameplay focuses on building up and releasing tension. Pac-Man is one of the earliest examples of an invincibility power-up with its power pellets. Each board in the arcade original has 4 of these placed in the far corners of the maze, and they're your only option to take out your ghost pursuers. When you eat one, the ghosts turn blue, and you can eat them by running into them. You know, it's Pac-Man. The safety they provide is fleeting though. The effect only lasts a few seconds before things are right back to normal, but that moment of catharsis when the pursued becomes the pursuer is pretty great. Each round reduces the effect's duration, until eventually they barely do anything anymore. You're supposed to lose and put more quarters in after all. Even so, the power pellets give the game a much needed moment of safety to release the tension a little before building it back up again. Pac-Man Championship Edition DX leans into that feeling as hard as it can. CEDX changes a few fundamentals. 1. Way more ghosts. 2. Some of them start asleep and wake up when you run by. 3. Instead of the ghosts just chasing you normally, the ghosts also follow you in a big ghost train. As you pass by more ghosts, they join the train. Some of them will even have power-ups like the power pellets on hand. The maze keeps changing shape until it eventually leads you to a power pellet. It's no longer about a short moment of relief. Grabbing the pellet becomes a peak as you turn back to the ghost train and go to town. As you eat the ghosts and additional pellets, the power-up timer extends a little. So scoring high in CEDX is about time management and chaining together pellets. Maybe you keep part of that train in reserve instead of eating the whole thing to maximize your points or keep things under control. It's up to you. Sometimes invincibility shows up in unusual ways. Perks that keep you from losing if you're going to can fit into almost any game. Balatro has Mr. Bones, a joker that sacrifices itself if you're about to lose to a boss, as long as you sorta kinda made it close in the end. Not only do you not lose, you win. Balatro is full of bosses that can neutralize your engine of points. Making all the cards of a suit worthless can wreck an engine built for flushes. Or a boss that hides your cards can make it almost impossible to play the straights that you leveled up. Mr. Bones can get you past that challenge, as long as you're willing to give up a joker slot while you hold on to him. It's not the most useful joker, but in the right circumstances, it will save your run. If you're going to focus on the mechanics of invincibility, you can get extremely detailed with the who's, what's, where's, when's, and why's. Iframes let you tinker with the idea as a useful tool. Invincibility frames, or iframes, can be part of the game's reaction to a player taking damage. It gives just a little bit of breathing room for a player to react to the situation before getting hit again. Without iframes, a character might get hit several times a second. If there's no knockback, the character is probably still touching whatever it is that hit them the first time. If you could get damaged immediately, it'd be very easy to create a scenario where a full health character gets blasted down to 0 before a player could do anything about it. Iframes give that buffer to keep players from stumbling into a no-win situation. Most games use some iframes when you take damage. Maybe not a ton, or maybe the amount will vary depending on how you got hurt, but some. Kid Icarus on the NES gives you a second's worth when you touch an enemy, but much less for poison water. In there, your health takes away much faster. It's so rare for a game to completely skip iframes on hit that when it does happen, it's often thought of as a bug or a design oversight. The classic Sonic games normally give you some on a normal hit from an enemy, a projectile, or spikes. When you're invulnerable, you get to stand on top of the spikes and jump off of them like normal ground. The original Sonic 1 on the Genesis, however, handles spikes weirdly. Step on one, and you'll get knocked back and lose rings like normal. Get knocked back onto other spikes though, and you'll immediately die. No iframes will save you. It's called the spike bug, but it's not known whether or not the behavior is intentional. Later games remove it, but that might just be an acknowledgement that it's not fun hazard behavior. You can even give the power of iframes directly to players. It's helped out most of the Souls-like games for sure. Rolling in Dark Souls, Elden Ring, or countless others makes you invincible in the middle of the animation. It's an all-purpose dodge that frees up monster attack design to be more dramatic. The rolling iframes make it so players don't have to worry quite so much about whether they can get away from a big sweeping sword attack in time. Without the iframes, it'd be almost impossible to fight against so many of the larger enemies in particular, whose big sweeping attacks would keep you from getting anywhere near melee range with your dinky little spear. The shield's not bad. It's pretty safe, I guess. Kinda slow though, and real tiring to hold it there. Man, know what'd be way better? Throwing yourself around, full out diving. Rolling is a bit more demanding of your timing, but if you know what you're doing, you'll be totally safe. Better yet, you could roll into the attack at the right time, and make this monstrosity rue the day it went up against Rolson the Tumbler. If you want, you could get way more detail with iframes too. Combat depth in most fighting games depends on split-second timing windows, including when a character is immune to damage at specific points of an attack animation. Basically every competitive fighting game uses them, but let's just look at Smash Bros since they have this nice iframe highlight setting. Rolls and spot dodges will make you invincible of course, but you can also do it by pulling yourself up from a ledge or getting up off the ground. Different moves have unique patterns of iframes, where players have to get pretty familiar with the character to know the right window to counterattack. Sometimes only parts of the body will be immune to damage. They aren't set in stone either. A move like the roll will start to lose iframes if you use it too often. The system has a level of detail that only the most dedicated players will dive into, but that commitment to detail also brings with it the professional level skill ceiling, high enough to make the game a spectator sport. Iframes and power-ups are cool, but what about letting a player become invincible as a normal ability? That shows up in many RPGs, MOBAs, and shooters, often through some skill in a character's toolkit. It can be a short burst of 0 damage, maybe a few seconds, to get in there and do your worst. The long cooldowns these abilities almost always come with keep them from becoming game-breaking, but deployed at the right time, it'll negate tons and tons of damage. It's also great for tactics, to get a character positioned to where they can be most effective, either by closing the gap to melee range, or by letting you flee from the fight as an emergency option. In an MMO like Final Fantasy XIV, it's usually the emergency one. MMO tanks are all about soaking up hits and keeping enemy aggro away from the squishiest members of your squad. FF14's tank skills are full of things that let you buff your defense, and no skill is more effective than the invulnerability ones that give you that perfect cover. Each of the 4 tank classes put their own spin on the idea. The Paladin's Hallowed Ground is just 9 seconds of straight invulnerability, no strings attached. Pull dungeon mobs all day, and all you have to do is wait 7 real minutes until the cooldown ends. The Warrior's Home Gang is also straightforward, but needs a little more timing. You'll still lose health, you just won't be able to lose that last hit point. They get powerful self-heal abilities to get back to good health, but you've still got to make sure you don't lose your shield before that. Gunbreaker's Super Bolide makes you fully immune like Paladin, but it takes away all your HP right away. Hope someone can get you back up to speed before the effect wears off. It's also the best way to jump scare your healers. Keep them busy. The Dark Knight has the most emergency button of the 4. Living Dead needs you to die after using it in order to work. You'll stay alive for another 10 seconds, and your skills gain a strong self-healing property, but you do need to heal back a chunk of your health before the timer ends, or you'll die for real. In older expansions, it used to be infamously worse too, with no self-heal perks, and basically forcing a healer to babysit you to even get you a chance to come back to life. I can't get footage for this. Good riddance. Invulnerability is a major tool in any tank's kit, but each flavor brings with it its own tactical changes that makes each class its own thing in the same role. It might not always show how much it matters in casual content, but for high-end fights like the Savage and Ultimate level raid bosses, the little details matter. Invincibility isn't even stuck as a mechanics-only thing. Immortality has been a theme in literature forever, And game stories can deal with invincibility as a theme too. If your character couldn't die, how would that affect them? How would it change how they see the world and their place in it? Lost Odyssey is a JRPG whose story is centered around the immortality of half of its main cast. The game weaves around Kaim, one of several immortals present in this world, as he works to regain his memories and piece together what exactly is going on. He has to wrestle with the mortality of everyone he knows, befriends, or gets close to, while he stays ever the same. The game includes a compendium of very well written side stories called The 1,000 Years of Dreams that describe vignettes from Kaim's long life and how he changes as the centuries go on. The theme is integrated back into the game's battle system as well. The mortal and immortal characters learn skills in different ways, and even how they each deal with getting KO'd is different, with immortals coming back to life in a few turns every time. No such luck for the rest of them. Lost Odyssey is criminally underrated. Go check that out. Invincibility doesn't have to be temporary. There are games where you just permanently can't die. What they tend to do instead is redefine what failure actually means. If you can't lose your health, there has to be some other element of risk to take its place. You can have a game where the question isn't, can you get through with your life, but instead, how well can you get through? Kirby's Epic Yarn is a very, very chill platformer. You don't have to worry about losing your life to these yarn boys. It's a great way to get a younger player new to gaming used to the controls of moving a character in a game world. But if you're into more of a challenge, this game still has something for you to dig into. Kirby ranks how well you clear levels. More beads collected means a better medal. Taking hits won't hurt you, but dropping your beads all over the place won't charm the judges. If you want to get the gold, you have to finish the stage with as many beads as possible, explore everywhere, grab everything, and try to not get snagged on too many enemies in the process. It's a simple ranking system that rewards skillful play and exploration. It's not super challenging, it's still Kirby's Epic Yarn, but systems like this are a great way to give players something to strive for when they no longer fear death. There are of course games with much deeper ranking systems. I like the one in Pizza Tower. Outside of boss fights, there are no health mechanics at all. You can take as many hits from enemies as you want, and aside from getting knocked around, it's not going to stop your progress. The only way to die in Pizza Tower is to run out of time and get caught by Pizza Face. The challenge instead comes from figuring out how to master a stage to score better and reach those elusive S&P ranks. Pizza Tower gives you a combo count when you take out enemies and resets it when a timer hits 0. You can lengthen the combo timer by extending the combo, or getting points by collecting items or destroying objects. High combos are key to getting enough points for higher ranks, so the real penalty for getting hit is how it can ruin your combo by cutting that timer down. If you're just looking for an S rank, a drop combo here and there isn't a deal breaker. Just get a pretty good chain going at some point, grab most of the collectibles and secrets, and you'll be fine. Maybe do the optional lap too if you're low on points. You've got some wiggle room. If you want that P rank though, you've got to go for a near perfect run. Grab everything you can, every major collectible and secret, complete the second lap, and do it all while keeping your combo going for the entire stage. Choose to be untouchable, or kiss that P rank goodbye. This is Pizza Tower's greatest challenge, completely optional to pursue, but oh so satisfying to overcome, even if all you can manage is the S rank. Without any health bar or fear of death, the game still presents a tense and compelling challenge, from carefully raising the skill ceiling into the stratosphere. I'd be hard pressed to not talk about Wario Land after Pizza Tower. That game really drove home the idea that a failure state in a game can simply be a loss of progress. Wario can't die in Wario Land 2 and 3. He can only be tossed aside. The stages in Wario Land are built as sort of an obstacle course to navigate. A lot of enemies don't really hurt you. They might make you lose your precious coins, but they're more into pushing you off course. Some just do it by literally pushing you, but many have an extra trick up their sleeves. Wario Land 2 and 3 are full of transformation status effects that can be inflicted by enemies. Bee stings make you float. Zombie Wario lets you shuffle around and fall through stairs for some reason. And a lot more. The levels are often built where getting one of these statuses means you can't get past some parts of the level. You won't jump high enough or move fast enough to get to where you need to be. To make it to the end, you have to get through the gauntlet of enemies while mostly staying as your normal self. If you fail, you'll often have to retrace your steps to return to normal before you can progress. Sometimes though, you do want to be hit with a status. Secret passages are everywhere in Wario Land, only accessible by turning a disadvantage into an advantage. Float into this tiny crack as Flat Wario to get to secret areas, that kind of thing. Even without a normal way to be hurt in Wario Land, that doesn't keep the level design from being challenging. One more little note before we go. It's been 8 years, but we finally made it to episode 100. If you started way back when this was my college thesis, or if this is your first time here, thank you for your eyeballs. I got them now. You can help us keep making episodes of Design Doc by signing up for our Patreon. We put each new video out there a little earlier, and you can also get our behind the scenes podcast we do for every episode, and a newsletter of some of the news stuff we like each month from around the internet. Patrons really help us out, so go over and sign up. Thank you for watching.